Aloha and welcome to Maui Nonprofit Notes, where each week you will find us talking story with Maui's nonprofit executive directors and staff to find out how they're working to support those with needs within our community. Maui Nonprofit Notes is generously sponsored by Pacific Source. If you're building or remodeling a home, please stop by Pacific Source's cabinet and appliance showroom located in the Waikapu Bayshard. I'm Susie Tiemann, Executive Director of Lokahi Pacific, and your host for Maui Nonprofit Notes. For those of you who may be listening for the first time to this weekly show, during the hour we share some of the experiences of our nonprofit agencies and just how they are changing lives, changing communities, and creating miracles of hope for those with needs. Today we're going to start off the show talking to Greg Lagoy, who is are you the CEO?
That's my official title, yes.
Okay. CEO of Hospice Maui. I'm in awe of what Hospice Maui has accomplished in its 35 years.
We have served many, many, many people who are, I would say, facing something that they did not choose, and that is a topic that we don't, in our culture, like to talk about much, and that's dying.
Right. And it's, for each person, it's a different event. Kind of event.
Just as each person's life is a different event.
There you go.
Seriously, each person's dying. And because we have a team approach to supporting people during this time, the team meets regularly every 2 weeks to discuss in detail how the care is proceeding and what we can do here and what we can do there to help this out. And we also talk about how the death has gone once it happens. And the stories are truly amazing and really punctuate this idea that we die as individually as we live. And the stories are wonderful. And the family, of course, is in the middle of a painful loss when these stories are unfolding. But even still, the power of it is not lost on them. And the uniqueness and the transformative energy in the process of supporting someone who's dying is profound.
It's got to be an incredible experience. I've not been around when someone has taken their last breath.
I have.
You know, I've had members of my family who have died, who've had other family members there, etc. But I just have not been there at that time. And although I was around when hospice was helping with my sister's cancer, her final days, I was not there for the end.
Right.
Matter of fact, I had left like 3 days before and then turned around and jumped on a plane and flew right back for the funeral, which is not the same because that's a whole nother, episode, an event. But the hospice people were still there. I mean, they didn't just walk out because she was gone.
Right.
They were helping us all adjust to this loss.
Exactly. Yeah. That's part of what we do. It's to support. That's probably the major thing, is to support family members through the really difficult challenges that this can bring. And the onlooker, whether it's a family member, a friend, a hospice worker, a paid caregiver, whoever is present when someone dies, their experience is individual as well. So
interesting.
It can be, I've heard descriptions of that moment being profound, and I've heard descriptions of it being a transition that's so subtle that there was hardly any difference between just before the last breath and after the last breath. So people's experiences are quite different.
Interesting. That's as I look back on that experience, I think of how, again, because each one of us are individuals. Even though we're all in the same family, grew up together, etc., we all were accepting this in different ways.
Yes.
And some not accepting it. And she was way too young to go. And does it get easier as people get older for the family to accept it?
It does.
Does it?
I would say it gets a lot easier. The most difficult deaths for those of us doing the care and for family members are young children and people who are raising young children. Those are tough. When someone dies comfortably in their 90s, there's usually not anywhere near the same level of grief because so much has happened. The sense of this person having completed their life cycle is it's wired in us. I think it's wired in us. The human wave of coming into this world and growing up and being an adult and contributing and having family and then becoming elders and eventually our bodies running out of gas and breaking down and leaving. And if we do that graciously, there's hardly, like an expert diver, leaves hardly a ripple when they hit the water.
That's an interesting way to put it. And as we talk, to people or people in the profession, the doctors and so forth, they're telling us we're going to live longer at some point. But now I'm starting to hear we're not going to live longer because we're not taking care of ourselves.
Well, everything is relative, and that is that if we looked at some particular time frame in the past, like a couple hundred years ago, where they say, well, the average lifespan was, and let's say it was 45. If you remove infant mortality from that, that meant that if a person who made it to 20 years old, what was their life expectancy? Life expectancies have increased, but not dramatically. And part of that is plain and simple biology. There is a clock, and that clock tells you how fast your bones grow, when puberty comes, when you stop having color growing out in your hair follicles. I mean, there's all these little clocks. When the body starts producing less and less elastin, which is in the connective tissue that makes it bounce back as opposed to collagen, all these things are programmed in, and they are like clockwork. So the ways and the amount that we're likely to have an influence on our longevity is still, and it's not like somebody's going to say, you know what, we've got it down here where somebody can have children for 240 years and expect to live to 350 years. That's not what we're talking about, is it?
No.
All right. So when people say life extension, we're talking about, tiny little pieces here. And I think that the quality has got to be the focus and not the quantity.
Right.
Because the day that your death faces you is always today. Nothing ever happens that doesn't happen now. Nothing has ever happened that didn't happen now. That's how it is. And so whether you've lived 40 or 60 or 80 or 100 years, when death comes, it's now. And it's only in our minds that this idea of living longer and like postponing it's going to be longer away from us. Those are just mind games.
Interesting. That's an interesting theory on the whole thing. Not heard it quite that way before. So we kind of got off the subject here a little bit. We were supposed to be talking about Hospice Maui. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, it's related, of course, but Hospice Maui, I took a look at is this a new website, yeah? You've had it redesigned?
We have revamped our website, yes.
Yeah.
It's periodically, it's a good idea to do that because, people become accustomed to some things, and in that familiarity, they often don't see things that are there.
Right. I love the pictures are great, and
Mm-hmm.
just the copy just kind of jumps out at you because it's short, succinct. That's the same thing, isn't it? To the point.
Short is not necessarily succinct.
Succinct
Right.
to the point.
Right.
But I really like it. And, there was one thing on the website that really got my attention. And as you go through and you're thinking about, how can I help? What does the community do? What does this mean to all of us? There was an item in there in the heading that said, the gift of time.
Yes.
And that we've kind of been talking about that, time.
That was an article for the newsletter that was written by our medical director. That's Dr. Nancy Long. And it's actually quite short. And do you mind if I read it out
Sure,
on the air here?
Please, let's share it with everyone.
A nurse spending an extra hour or two at a patient's bedside, taking extra time to explain a difficult situation to a family, or visiting a second time on a difficult day. A hospice aide having the time to give a patient a haircut or a manicure. A social worker creating a letterboard so that a patient with speech difficulties can communicate clearly. A spiritual care counselor delivering Reiki treatments not just to a patient, but to his wife or caregiver. Lately, our Hospice Maui team has been reaching further into the Maui landscape, deeper into places of need that are off the beaten path. I am so very proud of what I have seen them do in places without traditional housing, running water or other resources. Time is what allows us to be there as well. A hospice chaplain once told me, dying occurs at the speed of nature. We need to slow down to the speed of nature to be in the presence of the dying. Trying to do that while we are, quote, managing workloads in a time of limited resources is tremendously challenging. Community support is what allows us the freedom to slow down to the speed of nature when it is most needed. Time is precious to us all, but most especially precious to the dying and their families. Thank you, Maui, for giving us the gift of time. Dr. Nancy Long, Medical Director.
That's great. That's a tribute, and that's where it's at. That's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to rush. You don't want to have to go in and do something because you've got a rigid time schedule. You need to be there for the family, for the dying.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And you do, from everything we hear from everybody you work with.
And that means being present at a deep level. It means not thinking about what you've just been doing or what you're about to do, but having the space to just be fully present. That also means space from one's own anxieties and fears. And so there is the implication then that a good hospice worker does inner work as well, so that they can stand in the presence of the fears that are brought up, so that they can acknowledge their own reactions to what they're witnessing, and not carry that into the room, but rather just accept it within themselves.
Is training to be a hospice volunteer difficult?
Hopefully. We try to make it difficult.
There you go. Okay.
Seriously.
And there's a reason for that. Yes. I mean, only special people can do it.
Well, what I would say is that this kind of thing, because of the challenges involved, requires people who feel strongly drawn to do it or called to do it. And the training that we do, which we call our hospice training because not only volunteers, but all of our staff have to go through it as well, is 40 hours more or less over 2 weeks. And it is intended to bring issues to people's attention that are present for them and that are painful, and then to allow them the time and space to be with those and to be supported by other people that they don't even know. In that process, people get a sense of the value of being present for someone. And that's what a hospice volunteer does. They are present for someone that they don't know. So the training isn't actually anything, it's not an information exchange. It's an experiential series of events and support in a supportive environment that allows people to learn to do something they haven't done typically.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do people, I mean, I would think they're digging deep into themselves to pull out some of this.
We dig deep into them. We present
Okay.
videos and exercises that are very powerful and very challenging, that bring people face to face with their own mortality, with the things that they would have to give up or that they would lose if they were very ill, for instance. We have an exercise that goes through the dying process for each person.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very powerful.
I was going to say you gotta be pretty tough to go in there and handle that.
You don't have to be tough. You have to accept the pain that it may put you in.
Okay.
Because people end up in tears often,
Mm-hmm.
and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
So the idea is, yes, this is difficult. Yes, these things come and they're painful, and that's okay. It's okay. It doesn't have to be fixed. Everybody doesn't have to be smiling all the time. We can recognize that sometimes life has painful times and painful parts of it. And if we can stand in recognition of that fact in each other, then we're crossing into new territory.
So you're actually sending somebody out who has kind of lived through it in this training session.
It lives through it in a very controlled way, but yes, we intentionally distress people so that they can feel what it's like to be supported
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I got to think about that for a minute, and let's take that minute to take a short break.
Aloha from Pacific Source, and thank you for your support over the years. Pacific Source has offered more of what builders and homeowners value most in building materials and cabinet design. We've done this by offering superior customer service and products, as well as by designing kitchens and baths that are intelligent and elegant while staying true to your vision and budget. Visit our showroom in Waikapu in central Maui, where we display a variety of cabinets as well as top-name appliances like Sub-Zero, Wolf, Viking, KitchenAid, and more. We display countertops, tile and wood flooring, and several brands of windows and doors, including Fleetwood multi-slides and La Cantina folding doors. Come in and talk to our designers about making your dreams become a reality. From concept to completion, we really believe our attention to detail and superior service are what sets us apart. Let us show you what we mean. We are a Pacific Source at 515 East Oahe Way in the Consolidated Base Yard in Waikapu, just off Waiko Road. Call us at 986-0380. That's 986-0380, or look us up online at packsource.com.
Come be inspired at the CIM Home Expo at the War Memorial Gym Friday and Saturday, June 10th and 11th. Explore what Maui has to offer with over 50 different contractors, architects, and interior designers. Talk to Maui's leading professionals in the construction industry about your upcoming project. Sign up to win a playhouse. The first 1,000 people will win a tote bag. Friday is open from 4 to 9 p.m., Saturday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. For more information, call 633-1686.
And we are back. This is Maui Nonprofit Notes, the weekly radio show where we talk story with our executive directors and their staff and find out what is happening in our community. The first half of the show today has been with Greg Lagoy, who's the CEO of Hospice Maui. And before the break, I mean, he took us into some pretty heavy territory. I don't know about all of you out there who are listening, if you caught some of that. I mean, this is something that I guess I'm kind of at the point where I can't imagine that if you have, this is going to come out wrong, I know it is, if you have time to die, it's not a sudden death. I can't imagine doing it without hospice.
And it's interesting that most people at the beginning of our training that we started to talk about, if you ask people if you had a choice between dying quietly in your sleep or knowing that your death is coming in a matter of weeks or months and being able to, most people say, no, I don't want to know about this till it happens. And by the time we're done with our training, people generally have a different perspective on it. And if they volunteer in the homes of the patients and begin to see the richness that this opportunity provides, and they look around and see the pain that happens when that opportunity wasn't there, then it boils down to courage. And then they either have to choke up the fact that they just don't have the courage at this point to deal with that, or they start recognizing that one of the gifts that hospice brings is that it takes something that is inevitable and it dignifies it and makes it comfortable and communicates about it so that it becomes a part of life and not just an ending of life.
Interesting. Good point. That's a good point.
You know, in terms of Maslow's, Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Yeah.
I think that one of the self-actualization piece, there's a part of that in which there's a recognition that the phase of life where death and dying is confronted is probably the most powerful phase of growth and development, because suddenly you have something to compare yourself with besides the Joneses and what you've always wanted or anything. You know, death itself provides the clean slate, and it's amazing how much people can change when they face their own deaths. And of course, that's the underlying theme of Outward Bound programs and a lot of things coming of age in certain indigenous peoples where they bring people through a very difficult and sometimes fatal. The idea is that in the face of death, a lot of things are cleaned up.
And cleared up.
Mm-hmm.
You see them more clearly for what they are.
Mm-hmm.
That's excellent. We weren't going to get so serious after the break, but here we are. There's something about this subject. I mean, it is serious. There's no question about it. But you've got some kind of fun news to tell us about with the best places to work.
Hospice Maui was selected as one of Hawaii's best places to work recently, and so we're very honored by that. And it indicates a strong collaboration in terms of the values that we have in our staff, and a sense of our appreciation of how our staff does their work, and appreciation of them and our support. The other thing that
before you get off of that, it's kind of like you're supporting each other internally as well as externally.
That's the idea. My perspective is that how can you expect someone to do the intensity of the work if they don't feel that they're heard and supported and a part of a team internally?
Right. Mm-hmm. So well-deserved, I'm sure. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Sure.
And you've got a screening coming up.
Well, on our way to that screening, I just want to say, first of all, is that on Memorial Day, every year, Hospice Maui has a memorial service for the people who have died on our program. We're talking over 300 people each year at the Keawala'i Church in McKenna. And it's always, 9 in the morning on that Monday morning. And so that's something that's coming up in a couple of weeks, and we're very pleased to be able to provide that. It's a wonderful opportunity for people to sit underneath that huge Scheffalera tree and hear music and poetry and the names being called of those who have died with the ringing of a bell. We have a release of doves. There's refreshments. It's a beautiful ceremony.
I'll bet there's some folks who come back a second year just to...
There are, and they're welcome to do that, and not just second. Every now and then there are people who've come back, several times. And then what you were starting to bring up, it's possible that some of the listeners have actually seen the PBS Frontline called Being Mortal. And it was a film done that's in a parallel to Dr. Atul Gawande's book, Being Mortal. He's a Boston surgeon and writer who has written several successful books. And this most recent one, what it essentially does is, from a physician perspective, it shows how, let's just say that the drive to treat, to fix, to cure makes the physician's job of having a conversation about the end of life so difficult that it is avoided often at the cost of futile treatments and inappropriate extensions of care. And so the idea here is that as time goes on and as more and more people have this conversation, like you and I are having this conversation, and 20 years ago, it would not have been as likely. So as time goes on and these conversations are becoming more frequent, we have the opportunity to look at this in more detail. And so what Hospice Maui is going to do is show this film in collaboration with Kaunoa Senior Center. And we're going to show it once at the Senior Center in Paia and once in Lahaina. And they're going to be in July. I don't have the exact dates, but people will have their... this will be well advertised. But the idea is we're going to show segments of the film followed by discussions and questions and answers and talking, and then another segment of the film. And they piloted this in California, and it was unexpectedly successful. People turned out to participate in this. And so we're looking at using this to generate discussions not only among the general public, but to bring this into the hospital's education program, to get professionals having these discussions, physicians, nurses, case managers, into the nursing homes, and anywhere that people are engaged in the caring process. I think it's important for them to recognize that, for instance, a person who delivers meals to a friend who is not able to get out anymore, on the spectrum of life, that person is much closer to their death. And acknowledging that is an important part of being able to be honest in the interaction of just dropping off the meal. It's like at some point, this person isn't going to need to eat. Their body isn't going to work anymore. It will have stopped. And so the discussion around what that means allows that not to be hidden. If healthcare people, if community workers, if volunteers and friends can be more at ease with the conversation about this stuff, then, by facing something, we can act more appropriately. And there aren't regrets as often. There aren't situations where, gee, I wish I had done this. Oh, we hear that from family members all the time.
Mm-hmm,
Well,
I bet you do.
we wish the doctor had told us that this was. We wish we had called hospice sooner. These are the kind of regrets people have because they don't have these conversations. So this film, Being Mortal, Atul Gawande's piece that was on Frontline, is going to be the center of us, trying to have these conversations. And so our collaboration with Kanoa Senior Center is central in this initial 2 pieces in July. And then, as I said, we're going to be rolling this out in other settings and trying to engage these conversations more widely through the community during the rest of this year.
Wow, that's that's something else. And these are free.
Oh, yeah.
Everything's free. And even that's always one of the questions. And real quick, we got to close this segment. But hospice care, people think it's expensive.
Well, hospice care is paid for by insurance 99% of the time or something like that. And it is expensive. But because we provide visiting nurses, nurse aides, social workers, spiritual care, physicians, and then if needed, other specialties like, PT and whatnot. We provide all the medicines related to the terminal condition, all the supplies, any equipment needed. And it's expensive, but in comparison with being in the ICU, it is so inexpensive that every insurer has this as a covered benefit. And the way healthcare is these days, if someone doesn't have insurance, they can get insurance. So hospice care itself, the care itself, is most of the time covered by insurance. There are, of course, exceptions. And, we're building a 5-bed hospice Holly right across the street from the hospital. And the roof is on it now, and we're closing in on it. And one of the challenges with that is that the payments for hospice care don't include room and board in a place like this. And so when you see us having fundraising events and this kind of thing, just know that there are a lot of needs that revolve around caregiving that hospice isn't obliged nor paid to do, that we will be fundraising in this community to be able to support
That and give them the full benefit.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. Greg, it's always a pleasure having you on. The subject is a tough one. And while we say people are opening up more to it now than ever before, it's still hard.
It is. And can I throw a plug in for Pacific Source?
Please.
It doesn't just have to be their kitchen center. If you want wood for a deck, anything to do with building, those folks are on it.
They're tremendous. Paul and his crew over there, it's a place I'd go to if I was having something done. Thank you so much, Greg.
Thank you, Susie. I appreciate the opportunity.
Best to you and your staff, and keep up the good work.
Aloha.
One thing we did not talk about, and that was that wonderful phone number that you have, that 244-5555. Told you I'd remember it.
Very good.
I got no notes in front of me.
Our idea at the time, 35 years ago when we got that number, was if people are going to have to make really what amounts to the hardest call, let's make it the easiest number. So that's what we've got. We've got the easiest number.
So 244-5555. Give Hospice Maui a call and see how they can help you through one of the toughest times in your life, and be with you as you work through it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susie.
Okay, we're going to shift gears a little bit here now and talk with Shannon. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing? Yeah.
You doing real good?
I'm doing real good.
I love it.
It's always great to be in the studio with you.
Oh, hey, it's been a while. That's what
been.
It was like when I was talking with Adele about this, and it was like, well, who's going to be coming? And she says, your buddy Shannon, of course. And I said, good, okay. And we do have someone else. Have I met you?
No.
Okay, I'm thinking you look a little familiar, but didn't fit the right setting.
So this is John.
This is John.
One of our newest fatherhood involvement team facilitators.
A facilitator, wonderful. So you're out there helping guys learn what they didn't learn in the book that came with the kids.
Exactly.
It's terrible that we say that, but what can that's
It's the truth.
if it was easy, we wouldn't need you guys.
Yeah, right.
If everybody knew what to do. But it's a tough job,
Yeah, it is.
and it's I keep looking at different people ever since I first started talking with you folks about the fatherhood program, that I start watching how the interaction between fathers and kids are, and it's night and day when you look. I mean, there's some kids that are almost afraid for dad to put his hand down and say here, or come here, or whatever. And then there's those who come running, don't have to be asked, because they want to be with dad. So you tell me how you make that difference.
Well, one of the key things that we focus on is just really, it's not enough just for dads to be there and to be around. Our goal is really to help dads become the best nurturing father that they can be. And so, it's not the example of just having a dad who's sitting in the chair with a remote control and not paying any attention to the kids, and Joe, just because he's in the room, he's here. No. We want to encourage dads to be an active, involved part of their kids' lives.
That's not a dad, that's a babysitter.
Yeah, that's a very bad babysitter.
Yeah, that's true, yes. Yeah, right. I'm sorry. I don't want to offend all those babysitters that are good, but that's your stereotypical.
It's a stereotypical one that's probably after the kids go to bed kind of thing,
There you go. Okay.
So our goal is to really just come alongside them, and we don't have all the answers, and I'm a father of, as you know, I have 4 beautiful daughters. My oldest is about to turn 21, and our second daughter is in college. She's 19, and our third daughter is no longer with us. She transitioned to heaven about 10 years ago in an automobile accident. And then our youngest daughter is about to turn 13, and she's full of life and vibrant, and it's so it's all girls, and so that whole process of learning to be a dad, I when I became a dad, I didn't have a book. There was no manual. There was no I learned a lot from my dad, and my dad was great, very loving father, but he worked a lot, and so.
And that's kind of the typical thing we hear today, is that fathers have to have 1, 2, maybe even 3 jobs to keep the roof over their head for the family to be able to stay together. How do you make time?
Right.
And it's not, again, we get back to the thing about the quality of the time, not the quantity.
Yeah, and that's kind of that's one of those things where you kind of go, okay, it's if I spend quality 5 minutes with my kid, that's better than no. There's a point to having quantity time and quality time.
There you go. Okay.
But it's realizing the importance of your role as a dad, and that's what we keep going back to all the time, is if we can help dads to understand that they have, even in a situation where they're not in the home, for whatever reason, they still have such a vital, important role to be involved, actively and healthily involved in the life of their children. So,
as the father of a 21-year-old and now a 13-year-old, do you see changes that you've made in how you parent?
Oh, yes.
I mean, I heard. Sorry to go back to a funeral setting, but I heard at a funeral one time, this grown. I mean, they were all grown children at that point, but the oldest son was saying to the youngest daughter, "Who's that guy they were all talking about at the funeral? I didn't know him.
Yeah.
Was that Dad? Well, it was Dad today." And there's 15 years between the two of them.
Wow.
So it was a whole generation thing. But, as the family matured, so did Dad.
Right.
And so he was a dad, whereas before he was in that stereotypical working all the time, trying to provide the best home he could. and maybe he became a dad a little too early, kind of thing. So that's why I threw out the question, because that thought keeps sticking in my head every time I talk to somebody about fatherhood and your program.
You definitely evolve in your parenting skills, and my oldest daughters are always giving the youngest one the hardest time. You don't even know what it's like to be disciplined and punished and stuff. Mom and Dad never do like you, they did us, and it's so funny. It's like you guys.
On that note, we have to take another short break. We'll be right back.
Aloha from Pacific Source, and thank you for your support over the years. Pacific Source has offered more of what builders and homeowners value most in building materials and cabinet design. We've done this by offering superior customer service and products, as well as by designing kitchens and baths that are intelligent and elegant while staying true to your vision and budget. Visit our showroom in Waikapu in central Maui, where we display a variety of cabinets as well as top-name appliances like Sub-Zero, Wolf, Viking, KitchenAid, and more. We display countertops, tile and wood flooring, and several brands of windows and doors, including Fleetwood multi-slides and La Cantina folding doors. Come in and talk to our designers about making your dreams become a reality. From concept to completion, we really believe our attention to detail and superior service are what sets us apart. Let us show you what we mean. We are a Pacific Source at 515 East Oahe Way in the Consolidated Base Yard in Waikapu, just off Waiko Road. Call us at 986-0380. That's 986-0380, or look us up online at packsource.com.
Come be inspired at the CIM Home Expo at the War Memorial Gym Friday and Saturday, June 10th and 11th. Explore what Maui has to offer with over 50 different contractors, architects, and interior designers. Talk to Maui's leading professionals in the construction industry about your upcoming project. Sign up to win a playhouse. The first 1,000 people will win a tote bag. Friday is open from 4 to 9 p.m., Saturday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. For more information, call 633-1686.
Aloha, and we are back again. This is Maui Nonprofit Notes, talking story this afternoon with folks from Maui's Family Support Services. We've got Shannon. Hello, I lost my notes. Shannon, what's your last name? Carrier.
Yeah.
And who is, you're the head of this program.
I'm the program supervisor for the Fatherhood Involvement Team. Yeah.
And then we've got John, who is one of the latest
additions to our
the
amazing
team of facilitators. Now, I think last time you were on, we were talking about you had just started a team. Was it on one of the islands?
Yes, we had just started having our meetings with our fathers on Molokai.
Molokai.
Yeah.
Okay, and so do you traditionally? Is it somebody who's been through the classes and the course who becomes a facilitator because they've learned so much and they're so appreciative and can't wait to give back and help somebody else? Or sometimes does somebody just walk in the door and they're perfect?
Yeah, sometimes so far they've been people that have just walked in and they really want to do it. We're pursuing the avenues of looking at some of the fathers that have come up through the program, taking them to the next level to where they can become kind of mentors to dads. That's kind of some of our long-term strategic planning that we're wanting to see happen with our.
So when you're talking about mentors, are you talking about like, okay, a situation happens and it's like, wait a minute, we didn't talk about this before. Can I call somebody?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So during the break, John, we were doing a little bit of discussing about how sometimes before the break I had asked Shannon about being the parent of a 21-year-old and a 13-year-old and the differences that happen in your life over that time period and how the kids react to how you perhaps discipline the younger one versus how they think they were disciplined.
Right.
And it could be reality because we do change. And you added a comment from a conference that you had recently attended, which I thought was fabulous.
Yeah, a lot of times, we haven't, as parents, especially new one, I have a 5-year-old, you don't get a lot of like that self-help manual when they're born. When I had a child, I was raised with a dad and a mom who were present and things like that, and they were supportive and things like that. But the problem being is when my son was born, I felt more alone with one extra person to the family because I didn't know how to handle the situation. I didn't know how to respond to a child crying and all this other stuff. And mom kind of has that instinct because they've been, harboring this child for 9 months, and there's that connection because of the pregnancy. But with the father, they're not as connected because they didn't carry the baby.
Right.
So I didn't know how to communicate. And one of the neatest things in that conference was the person who was facilitating the conference basically said, a child's inner voice comes from how we speak to them. And
Okay.
so anytime and how we speak to them and how we carry that message. And just the other day, with my son, just an example in point, he was kind of acting up and, typical of a 5-year-old child. I mean, they're trying to figure out who they are in the world. But we're trying to teach him the golden rule that everybody knows: treat others how you want to be treated. That's a really good guide to live by. And, we get frustrated and we kind of react suddenly. And I started thinking, well, if he wants to be treated kindly and we're trying to tell him you need to treat kindly others, we have to look at ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes, through these facilitation in these groups, it's talking story. It's talking these kind of events and that's happening with us and our kids, and getting new approaches and new ways to think about things and look at things. It's something that we definitely need, is that strong core community that we can go to other parents. Because, collectively, we have so much more together as far as what we know and giftings and skill sets and all those things than we do singularly.
Right. So in your sessions now, as you still got, you meet ever so often? What is it, once a week?
Yeah, so it depends on, we have 2 different programs that we function with. We have our one-to-one visits where we'll actually just meet up with the dad one-on-one, or we'll have our groups where we meet together with a group of dads. And so, and that's, one of the reasons we call our guys facilitators, because especially in our group setting, they're there to facilitate discussion. And, we have check-in each week with all our staff, and so to hear them say, man, I learned so much from some of these guys, because you get a group of guys together, and one of our groups that meets every Thursday at Hale Makana is they had 15 dads there.
Wow.
Last week, and these guys are coming together and they value the time to be able to really unpack what's going on, what the situation is in their family and what they're doing with their kids, and just listening to each other's situations and circumstances. And then, we have a curriculum that we use. It's called the 24/7 Dad, which is a great curriculum that, has some core values that we try to bring across and help. But it's the most important aspect of it is really giving these guys opportunity to kind of share and talk story with one another.
I would think there's a lot of light bulbs that go on in these sessions.
Oh yeah,
All the time. All the time.
It's like, I could have done it that way. Of course.
Well, and,
Yeah.
it's so funny because you have such a wide range of fathers. We'll have one father there that has 12 kids, and and then we'll have another one that's just got a brand new baby and doesn't know what to do, and you got the guy that's got 12 kids. His oldest is in their 20s, and so just processing all of that and learning from each other, and it's a really neat opportunity.
And
And
it
go ahead.
also opens the eyes to, what we could be doing wrong as parents, because a lot of times you don't even realize it until you hear other people's stories and you go, I could have done something different. Well, we learn from our mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, just like the children, we're learning to be parents as they're learning to be, people.
Right. And if you hadn't heard that, you wouldn't have known it was wrong, and you would continue doing it that way, which could lead to issues.
Right. And the cool thing is we just started our second group, and so we have our one group that meets on Thursday nights, and last week was our first official kickoff of our group Upcountry.
Oh.
And so we actually have a group that meets on Wednesday evenings at 7:30, and we're using the cafeteria at Kalama Intermediate School. And so we had our first group last week, and I think they had 4 or 5 dads that were there for that. And so we're just looking really, and that's the cool thing is, because someone goes, oh, you started, I don't want to jump in the middle. Our groups are designed to where you can come in at any point and be able to fit right in. And then we just continue meeting, and we go through like I said, we go through the curriculum. It's about 12 weeks worth of sessions. But you can jump in at any time, and so we did that on purpose.
Yeah.
So that the dads don't have to wait
And
12 full
yeah,
weeks
right. They don't
before
have to
can
wait. They don't
come.
feel tied down.
And if they can't make it a certain week, we can meet up with them one-on-one to catch them up on what they missed the week before, and things like that as well. So it's
And
cool.
it is culturally sensitive. So the curriculum's based on basically like the 7 different aspects of what culture sees as being a father. So it's not something designated to one culture. It's cross cultures, and we bring in some of the local mana'o
Yeah.
just to help guide parents. So it's a really neat program.
And our other two main facilitators here in Maui, David and Kavika, both of them actually they're actually on their way back from Aloha House, where they do a group on Wednesday mornings.
Oh, really?
And so that's why they're not able to be here with us. And then over on Molokai, George is our facilitator over there. And so we have a real good blended mix of staff, and so it's really good.
Interesting. You're smiling. Yeah. You can see it working. Now,
Yeah.
how long have you been doing this?
I've been with the program for 4 years now.
4 years.
Yeah.
So you've seen it grow.
Actually, yes. When I started, I was the only fit facilitator, and I was a part-time. It was a part-time position, and so the program has grown to we have 3 full-time staff in Maui, a part-time staff in Maui, and then a part-time on Molokai. So
Okay. Now you said something. You were a part-time fit facilitator.
yeah.
Fit.
So Fatherhood Involvement Team. Is
Okay.
What FIT
All
stands
right.
for.
There we go.
There
I just
you
want
go.
I just wanted the people out there to
Not
what is
fitness.
fit?
Well, yeah,
What's
whatever.
fit? Yeah, father
Yeah.
involvement team.
Fatherhood Involvement Team. It's so
Okay.
funny because we get so used to our acronyms.
Right,
that-
we do, don't we?
And we're like, people look at you like you're nuts. So yeah, our Fatherhood Involvement Team.
Right.
Facilitator. So-
Cool. That's great. Now you've got a big event coming up here about a month from now.
Yes, and that's one of the huge reasons why I'm here, other than just to come and hang out with you. of
Oh,
course,
hey,
you
I
know.
love it. Come anytime.
This is our 10th annual Celebration of Fathers event. And so this is a day that we set aside to just honor dads. And this is going to be, it's scheduled for Saturday, June 18th, and it's from 1 to 5 p.m. And it will be at University of Hawaii Maui College out on the Great Lawn. And this year we're so excited to be partnering with OHA, Office of Hawaiian Affairs, and to have them partner with us as well on this event. And so we're taking a real active role, and this event is going to have a lot of Hawaiian cultural components to it. So we're going to have some games and activities that are specifically to honor the local host culture here in Hawaii. So we're excited about that, and we've got vendors and a bunch of our partner. I think right now we have 17 partner agencies. So those are other nonprofit agencies in the community that do similar work that will be there and have a booth set up and be giving out information, have games, activities for the kids. And then we also have, I believe we're up to 20 vendors that are going to be there and have their little things that are going to be vending. And we'll have giveaways. The cool thing this year, we're doing something different. We're actually going to have a father-child look-alike contest.
Okay.
And so we'll have judges that'll be judging on a couple different categories on the dressed alike or look alike, act alike, those kind of things. And
So come in costume, maybe.
so come in costume, yeah. And moms will get a kick out of that. They'll get dressed their kids and dad the same way. And we'll have some great prizes. We've got a couple bands that'll be there playing, and it's just going to be a great time.
Our mom's invited.
Yeah, absolutely.
This
It's
is
a
for the whole
full
family.
Yeah, this is a whole family event. We want to encourage the whole family to come, and kids come, and they'll be making different things for Dad, and it's the weekend of Father's Day, so
Oh, that's right.
it's a great weekend to really come together like that. There's a lot of stuff going on that weekend all over the community, but just give us a couple hours of time to come. The mayor's representative will be there, and they do a proclamation every year. The governor will be sending a proclamation declaring June is the month to celebrate fathers, and so we're super excited about that.
Cool. That's neat. And like you say, it's 4 hours. Come
It's free
for a little while.
Yeah, and it's a free event.
Take a look around.
Yeah, there will be food available for purchase. We have a couple of
Food trucks?
and vendors that'll be there selling food, but
What did we do before food trucks?
I don't know.
You know,
I think a bunch of people got in their kitchen
yeah,
and made
we
stuff
see
and
it.
brought in crock pots.
there you go. Yeah, there were a lot of crock pots and there were a lot of buffet trays
Yep.
and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
put the food out for people.
That's for sure.
But this sounds great. And your 10th annual, I'm sure it's growing every year.
It is, and we're like I said, this is just.
And this is not just for people who've been in your program. This
no,
is for all the
this
dads
is for the
out
whole
there.
community. We want anybody that wants to come and celebrate dads. And so there'll be a couple of the big tents set up over the stage area for so people can sit and listen to the bands, and then we'll have the prizes and like I said, the contest and all that. So it's going to be a great time, a great event.
Well, that's cool. For more information, give a call to 242-0900. That's the Maui Family Support Services office.
Yes.
You can ask for Shannon, and if he's around, or you can. I'm sure anybody there can give him information. Also, you've got information on your website, which is MFSS, Maui Family Support Services.org. We're running out of time, guys. I can't believe it.
I know,
This has been fun. John, thank you for joining us, and thank you
thank
for taking part in this program. And I'm sure your 5-year-old is going to thank you.
Definitely.
At some point in his life, he's going to thank you for being that great dad. And Shannon, thank you for always sharing.
It's always
always wonderful.
Thank you so much
having
for
you here.
inviting us.
Thank you. Maui Nonprofit Notes is sponsored as a community service by Pacific Source, the builder's choice. Give Paul and his staff a call at 986-0380 or stop by their showroom in the Waikapu Bayshard on East Oahe Way to see how they can help you with your building project. The Maui Nonprofit Directors Association's mission is to provide personal and professional support to nonprofit executive directors, their organizations, and the community of Maui. Please visit our website at mauinonprofit.org for a list of member agencies. Today we visited with Greg Lagoy of Hospice Maui. Give him a call at 244-5555. And we talked with Shannon Carrier and John here from Maui Family Support Services, the Fathers in... Hello, Father... What is it?
Father Involvement Team.
Father Involvement Team. I don't know why I have trouble with that. Give them a call at 242-0900 and join them with the celebration of fathers on June 18th. We want to thank you all for tuning in today, and join us again next week when we'll have 2 more agencies represented. Again, I'm Susie Tiemann, Executive Director of Lokahi Pacific, and your host for Maui Nonprofit Notes. Thanks for joining us today. Have a great week, everyone. And anything anybody wants to add to it? No?
Aloha.
Oh, aloha. Thank you.